Thank you. Hello. Good afternoon.
How you doing? I'm going to see.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Remember that time you made about me?
Well, they crossed my table.
You're all around.
And I'm not left vertically.
I think the last time you came to my house, it was under very happy circumstances. With your brother and some other people. And everything was good. We come here today under sad circumstances.
Why is it sad?
Why is it sad? Because, speaking for myself, I'm hurt. Because I believed in you.
There's no need to be hurt.
Why?
I believe in the party.
I believed in you. I did
And
not
I
what you
also
first.
believe in what the party represents.
Well then we have no problem.
Right. So I don't see the need to be hurt.
Okay.
I don't think that anything was done
To hurt me? You hurt my
anyone.
party, you hurt me.
I
So,
don't,
but anyway, before we go any further, we want to establish from here, both Mr. Bizer and myself, confidentiality. If you feel the need to speak to the media, then just make sure that you put forward what we say without the twist that you are so good at doing. So that's all I ask. I am asking you that. And if that is okay, and you accept that, then there won't be any problem. Whatever we say here, I would prefer for it to be confidential, but if, because of you it can't be, because you don't want it to be, because you're a media person. I am not looking for Judge Price. I know in talk, you know. But that's what I'm asking. Is that okay?
of course it's okay.
All right.
I have never disclosed anything
Oh, yes, you
said
have.
confidential to the media.
Oh, yes, you have. But we won't go into that. Okay?
Okay.
So we have that. Anything you want to say?
Well, I don't know what I'm here to do at this particular juncture. Is it a vetting? Is it
Maybe I can just name with your permission, Chair. With the vetting committee is 4 persons.
Yeah.
We have Victor Scott, member of the National Executive, strategic manager. We also have Mr. Sylvie Stewart, a good friend of yours. In terms of the vetting, we have already had one meeting where we went through all the different candidates. Obviously, yours wasn't there because at the time it wasn't accepted.
okay?
And so we had to meet again to go through yours. And I think it was felt that it was important because it's just for this specific case that we actually meet people. It's unfortunate that the other team members could not be here, but we have heard from them some of their concerns for us for this reason. But yes, I think we're undergoing the process.
Okay.
I think one of the things that has come out, especially I would say in your case, is that we have to make sure that we cross all the T's and that our I's. And certainly it is to listen from you.
Yeah.
So it gives you a chance also to make representations to certain things.
Sure.
So if I could.
The president is here, and he's saying he's going to be a part of this session.
Who's Bradley?
Vicky,
Oh, he's with Arthur?
I believe so.
You're with Arthur?
Last time I checked.
Really?
Well, I don't know if he's going to be allowed.
Huh?
It's just.
He can take care of
Yeah,
himself.
yeah,
He doesn't
no
need
problem.
it.
No, I mean, if we were not, we
No,
were
no.
not apprised of that, so that we didn't lock you out. So,
It's your chair, it's up to you.
if you want to come and sit in here, let us know.
I learned something. I can. Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Lenny, how are you?
I am fine, my
You
dear.
are?
The last time you saw me, you
My
hugged
brother.
me up.
The last time I saw you?
You hugged me up.
Yes, but no, it's, you know, I don't know what is the
beside
protocol. I don't know what is the protocol. I don't know if I have
Yeah,
to
they know on session.
go through everything first, so can I just hug up people in the there?
Yes.
This is not the good old days of George Price Party. Can't forget
Oh yes, it
promotion.
is the good
It
old
is?
days of the George Price Party.
Okay,
There are some of us who are trying to change
I
that.
stand corrected.
You are corrected.
Yes.
So
Well, go
you
on.
go back to the pink shirt, so you take out the blue shirt. The last time you announced that you bring back and you put on back the blue shirt.
Like that.
Yes, but if you could continue on that. One of the first, I think, concerns that the committee had is the issue, if you go back to the court case that we had. Actually, the reason, I would think that the reason why we were suspended from party back in 2018, that issue was recently again on the news, and still certainly it seemed to us to be unresolved. What do you feel about it?
Well, the first thing, in 2014, I was not suspended from the party. In 2014, I was removed as a standard bearer and removed from the national executive. And at that juncture, my penance for what was deemed to have been the infraction was served. We crossed that hurdle because the election was gone, and we're at a different position now. And I think that has been resolved now fully, that is the case. In terms of the issue with the Cowley family, it's a private issue. It was settled. In fact, the reason why it was settled the way it was because the past party leader, Mr. Fonseca, so it basically made the suggestion that I settle it, and once I settled it, I would have been allowed to run. So it was settled in the manner it was. Ms. Cowley was given certain funds, and she is being...
That was in 2014?
Yes, in 2014.
So this
Right.
matter with Melanie is from 2014?
From 2014. Right, and it's a settled matter. The whole reason why it has come up now was because of what happened with the application. It was not a situation that was brought up independent of that. In fact, for 4 years, nobody was saying anything about it.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm positive. It's not an issue. I've been on...
Well, I mean, the issue about it being on the media, whatever, obviously, those come with the minute that you sign the application. Then if anything happen, obviously, you come under scrutiny for everything.
And,
whether it be in the past or, whatever.
Yes,
so,
yes.
so you know.
Yes,
so
that's
we
true.
figure we,
That's true.
all of us are following on the scrutiny.
And this is the thing, I have not been afraid to face that situation. It's not one that has created any problems for me. I'm a practicing attorney, been practicing for 10 years, without interruption. It has no bearing on my professional career. It has no bearing on my political career. It should not have any bearing on that at all. In Gomapan, the people of Gomapan who support me, that's not an issue for them. It was not an issue for the people in rural North either. But here we are in Gomapan now.
Can I ask you one thing? On the 10th of April, there is a Channel 7 interview on the news, and it says that you had defaulted on the payment and that there was hardly any progress made, that a new judge, on some new judgment, and that afterwards you showed up with your lawyer, Ileana Swift, and agreed to pay $1,000 monthly for the next 4 months, starting from May 4th. So, after which you would revise the payment of the entire debt, right?
Yes.
Yet on your application here, which was the first discrepancy that we picked up, you said that your estimated total liability is $1,500.
Yes, $1,000 a month.
That is not your total liability. No, don't be smart. Don't be smart, sweetie. That if you have a liability means in its entirety. Okay, and if you have a liability of God knows how much, I don't know, but you are agreed to pay 1,000 for 4 months, after which you would re-investigate that or revise
Revisit.
that,
Yeah.
revisit
Yeah.
it, then
Yeah.
your total liability is not
Come
$1,500.
on.
Don't be cute.
No, I'm not
Don't
being
be
cute.
cute.
I'm not being cute.
Uh-huh.
That is the extent of the liability.
That cannot be the extent of the liability, please. That's the extent of the liability for a month and a half, $1,500. $1,000 a month and 500.
Could I just look at this quickly?
Yeah.
If you notice,
Yeah. What did I miss?
estimated total liability is your debt, if any, being serviced. Right?
No, no, two different
The
things.
debt being serviced is yes.
Mhm.
We don't have a
All
problem
right.
with that.
Yeah, but they told you the debt.
liability. Listen, yes. Again, this is a settlement of a matter.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's
The
being
matter which brought you into disrepute in the first place. Yes, just move on. The answer is yes. Let's go. Don't try to
it's a
spin
settlement.
words.
It's a settlement of a matter.
Uh-huh.
In terms of the liability, that is, from my understanding of the word liability, I'm talking about loans. We're talking about any outstanding debt to any financial institution. This is a situation where the court has made a determination, right? In fact, the determination was not even one that I had to argue for. It was the other side that proposed $1,000, not me. And I accepted their proposition, which I am in my right to do. We manage debt, and in managing debt, you do it in a way that you are able to maintain whatever it is that you have as your obligations, and you also service whatever it is that the debt requires without default. Now, in this particular instance, there is an issue, and had been an issue, and that issue has always been that it should never have come to this. This was a situation where an agreement was made. As an attorney, I made the mistake of not signing a retainer with somebody I thought I knew, I thought was a friend. She turned around and made it a legal situation that shouldn't have been, for whatever reason. But at this juncture, this is not considered liability in the true sense.
Liability is a liability by any means. In any means, a liability is a liability. And if that is the case, then you should have put a codicil to the bottom and say it's not a liability in a true sense. My total liability is $1,500 a month. That is not correct. So you begin your application. You spin, and after you know me, know you, you're a spin master. You could spin anything. I know your babes. We go way back. You know, you're cute. I wanted to stop him just now, but I didn't. We have established a confidentiality here. If anything is misrepresented to the media, because I know it's going to go to the media, then no holds barred, right? So
It
your
seems
notes
to me
I would like-
we're starting from a position of no.
Of no what?
This is what I'm gathering here, that we are starting our vetting, which I believe was is supposed to be an objective process.
Yes, the first
So-
process is objective.
But we're starting from a position of no.
You can't tell me where we're starting from.
Well, this is what
Well,
I
you must keep
perceive.
that feeling privately and then
Okay.
prove it up later. But
Sure, no
don't
problem.
tell me, don't put that forward as if that is a position. You say that here.
I say it's a
and
perception.
then-
I say it's a perception. I'm not saying it's a position.
Okay,
It's
well
what I
then-
perceive it to be. If I'm
well-
wrong, I would be more than happy to be wrong.
Well, you know, perceptions always come across as being facts. But that perception is not correct. We are
Okay.
not beginning from a
Thank you.
premise of no. We are beginning on a premise of why. Why? Why the first discrepancy?
It's not a discrepancy. I'm
It is.
obligated to pay $15. I'm
That is not
obligated
a
to pay
total liability.
$1,000 a month.
That is not a total liability. If you ask me what my total liability is, it isn't $250 a month I owe you redeem a credit union. That is what I'm committed to pay. I owe far more than that. My total liability will be more than that. And you know that. Right? 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 Okay, then all right. So there was nothing
If you
misleading in that.
if you could go into the, so you say that, and I like the word that you use, perception.
Yes.
Perception-wise out there, there's a sense that, you took them people money, and you settled it out of court. That doesn't prove that you didn't, actually, just working out a payment plan or whatever, and then actually breaking that payment plan that they have to take you back to court, to force you to continue pay, gives a perception or the image out there, creates a negative perception or image of your person. Whether it be true or not, that's the perception that's out there. What can you do, or what have you done to try to change that image or that perception? Or what could you do to change that perception?
I'm paying. I've always been paying, but in reality, it wasn't a situation where they had to take me back to pay. I can demonstrate, in fact, I demonstrated to the court that I had always been paying. The issue is that they wanted me to pay more. And again, I will pay. I will continue to pay. What happened was that in their effort to seek to have me pay more, they came down to a realization that, well, since you're paying, we just want you to pay $1,000 a month. And we come back in 4 months and we'll see where we go from there. You must understand as well that I was paying Mr. Barrow on a matter involving him, where I had gone and defended the party leader on national radio, and Mr. Barrow sued me as a result. I paid in excess of $83,000. I never asked anybody for a loan to do that, and my practice has been able to afford me that opportunity, but I couldn't do both at the same time. I was paying Mr. Barrow something like $1,500 a month. And I went back to court to sue Mr. Barrow as well, because I wasn't satisfied that I was given justice, and I will not happily pay money that I don't believe I was wrongfully made to pay. But the court is what it is. I respect the decision of the court, and I did what I had to do, as I am doing what I have to do here. But to say that it's a misrepresentation, well, maybe it's not a misrepresentation, certainly not. I'm not seeking to deceive anybody.
Maybe a misunderstanding as to what total liability is. We can accept that.
And certainly the matter of the settlement is public record. So the full amount is there. I'm paying down on $200,000. And it's certainly less than what my assets are. And as I explained to the court, I am in a position, as soon as I'm in a position to do more than what I'm doing, I will. I am not a person who shy away from paying debts. I pay my debts. I've always paid my debts. In fact, in the campaigns I've run, it's public record. There's nobody knocking on anybody's door saying I owe them for work that they've done for me. I've not had that reputation.
You ran one election, right?
I ran one election and I ran another convention. In the Rural North, I ran 2 conventions in the general election. The Rural North, yes.
No, one general election.
One general election, yes.
A convention?
That was 2008, right?
2012.
Oh, 2012?
2012.
A convention, you ran 2 conventions and then 1 election, or
Yeah.
the convention was the election?
We had
I remember there was a
convention
controversy with the Wade and so.
Yes, that was the first one.
That was the first, okay.
And then
And that was a convention. And
well,
the next one you were endorsed?
that I was endorsed there, the one at Wade, and then I ran against Alvern Rivero in 2013.
So why 2013?
Because
Wasn't an election just 2012?
yes, but we did a convention in 2013. That's why we became standard bearer of Rural North for the 2014.
That's why the whole issue started
Yes.
for the 14.
Yes.
So that's the other issue too, because for the records that And when I'm not a lion, I guess that is why you have this whole thing in courts right now because of the issue of suspension, which you claim is not a suspension, and the parties claim that it is a suspension. So I guess maybe that is where some of it. But and I have to let that up to the lions and party for so long, but I mean, in terms of the party, at the discussions that we have had at the National Executive level, it is viewed as a suspension. It is and the discussion that was had was the suspension was lifted, that we have put into as probation.
Right, but the Constitution does not allow for a probationary period, and it does not allow for suspension of that length of time either. Then again,
the Constitution doesn't have every single detail of everything that.
well, under Section 25 of the Constitution, that's where it lays out discipline, and it's clear.
For the standard bearers, for the local committees. And then if you are dissatisfied with it, then you appeal to the national, that is under Article 13. Article 25 is the...
One of the powers of the National Executive, it gives it to have, to take into matters anything that deals with discipline or royal administration of the party, and then it has to be then, any decision that has to be ratified at the next National Party Council. So, I mean, I think, in my ordinary mind, I see it as that the National Executive has the power to suspend or to lift a suspension as long as it then is taken to the next National Party Council and that's ratified.
Yes.
But again, like I said, that's
The suspension came about as a result of a resolution, and the resolution is specifically worded. Now, by virtue of it being a resolution, whatever powers that was vested in the National Executive and the National Party Council was subsumed within that document. So it's what that document says or did not say that holds sway. We can have belief, we can have what we think, but it goes back to what was actually expressed in those words in that particular document. So if the document does not say that there is a suspension that is ongoing, and I would believe that you guys would have the document here, but then again, the understanding has been, by virtue of the affidavit that I was granted, that was put aside, that all these matters here were put aside, and that basically the application is being...
No, we haven't had another National Executive since,
right.
Since the court case or whatever.
So my understanding of things is that suspension, probation, all that is that in fact it was part of the press conference that I believe our chairman had.
So the
Which press conference, Chairman?
The chairman had a press conference after the matter was brought to the court, yes, and his...
2 weeks ago.
Yes, 2 weeks ago. And he said, well, the application will come in and there's no probation, there's no suspension. That has been withdrawn. And this is where we're at now.
He said there's no probation or there's no suspension?
Yes, it was set aside. That's why we're here. I mean...
it was reopened for nothing but for apply the interest.
And there's an affidavit in court to that effect as well.
Oh, this is after the
First vote.
the reopening of the injunction removed from the convention, from holding the convention.
Yes.
And that is when he gave a press conference saying that there was no...
That the application will be treated as there is no suspension, no probation, as this matter never occurred. And in fact, there is an affidavit that he has signed to that effect.
He signed an affidavit saying that there is no suspension and there is no probation?
That the application will be treated as if these matters never occurred, yes.
The application will be vetted along, that the suspension had already been lifted, and so they were going to
Go to Britain.
Yes.
give you the chance.
Yes.
And we would review the application,
Yes.
and the Think Committee would do it, and lots of other things were said in between, which I will not repeat. But he did not say that there was no probation. And he can't say that. That has got to be ratified. If that is done by a national executive, he can't say that without a national executive vote. So I know that he couldn't possibly have said that there was no convention, there was no probation that had been lifted. Which are the words that you're using?
No, I do believe that this was a matter that the lawyers had actually examined the resolution, because the entire thing has to do with the resolution. If the resolution, in its effect, did not allow for a suspension, it has nothing to do with the national executive at that point.
If the resolution, which
If the-
resolution you're talking
The
about?
resolution of
Created a suspension.
precisely.
Long ago.
Yes.
4 years
Yes,
ago.
because that's where everything stems from.
Yes.
And if the premise is false, then the
But
conclusion.
the premise is not false.
But
There
that's-
was a suspension. There was a
Well-
suspension. And no, Arthur, no spin from me.
No, I'm
There
not spinning.
was a
I'm
suspension.
not
You know
spinning.
why? Because I was head and tails and toes with Wendy and Cass and that. So there was a suspension. And you were apprised of it. And you were suggested and told to appeal to the national executive. You didn't even bother to come. You sent Carol Williams. Because all of them, but you see, in that situation, I chose to maybe, and I look. And I came because I couldn't stand to see what was happening to the party. And if Carol come up and said, well, no, they accept nothing, and she's gone. That was it. That was it. And I think you know that. And Henry Charles has been in communication with you and has asked you to come to the national executive. But no, you don't want to settle this the way it could be settled. You want to settle by saying, me Arthur Saldivar, as you said, out there in the courthouse, bring the party, stop a convention. No, that's what you said. Me, stop a convention on your webcam, and don't tell me no, babes, go back and look for it. Don't tell me no.
It's right here.
Okay.
Everything that I have said is right here.
Do you believe, Arthur, that these actions that you have undertaken, do you think it helps the image of the party, or do you think it brings down the image of the party?
The actions that I have undertaken.
What you have undertaken?
Recently, there was the battle with the court and the convention.
I did not want to be here. I did not want to be in a position as I have been placed in. But I do believe that as a member of the party, understanding what the Constitution portends and what it seeks to uphold, that it is my duty to ensure that the Constitution of the party, which binds all members, is given every opportunity to work the way it should. It's not a question of whether or not it does anything to the party, because at the end of the day, it can only help to strengthen the party. I sought to do everything in-house. I use every avenue.
Tell me, which avenues? did you
Every
say?
avenue.
Which ones? Tell me.
I applied as I was required to apply. When the application was not, when I was told that the application would not be entertained and was based on the resolution, I wrote to the party, I wrote to the chairman, I wrote to the Secretary General seeking audience with the executive. It never happened. I went through every step. The only other step remaining was one outside of the ambits of the party.
The most important one you should have sought redress with.
Which one is that?
The honor of distinguished service.
Where in the Constitution does it say that?
The audience also look at the disciplinary arm of the party. And
Yes,
especially for the vetting right now, the audience has to put in right at the first screen.
Yes, my understanding of it was that the ODS had looked at the application and that the executive said otherwise. And by virtue of that,
Function of the order, advisory by nature, but limitless in scope for discipline and will include recommendations. That's where you should have come. And you know that. When you told me that.
no. Again,
But you don't trust the manner of the chairman, you see.
That's not the case at all. What I follow is in relation to what the Constitution has as it relates to members who are seeking to hold office within the party. And what it says is that you appeal to the National Executive.
You appeal to the National Executive,
I
right?
sent a letter in writing to the National Executive.
Who received that?
It was received by the Secretary General right here at Independence Hall. I am certain that my chairlady from my committee can forward all the documents. In fact, they were part of the proceedings in court. Everything, all documentation and correspondences. It was not a situation where I just had a knee-jerk reaction to go to court on this matter. In fact, it would not have been entertained.
Why do you want to run? Why do you want to run in this election?
Why do I want to run? Because
why do you want to run for our party? It's for the People's United Party.
I'm a member of the party. I believe in this.
Well, are you card carrying?
I have been a card carrier since 1989.
What's your card?
I have the card with me, but I have been a card carrying member since 1989.
We like some members, so 50,000 other people up there are members of
We
the
do conversion around with
One Wade was 2011. Yeah.
Concurrent members on the paying dues, which division paid dues to?
At the time of the usual, no?
No, right now. You say your concurrent members are usually paid dues.
Right now.
Which division paid dues to?
Are we still collecting dues?
Yes.
No, are we still
You want to
collecting
go to the
dues?
Constitution, not to the Constitution and use it?
No,
Yeah,
man, no, let us go there. Don't let us go there.
You can't do because
I mean, we
only
had so many conventions
constitution
without
is
card-carrying members voting. I mean,
No, but I remember 2011 it existed.
But that is going to be a
yes, I did at that time. At that time, I had my card and paid.
You know, but
I don't think my dues can be questioned. I pay a lot of dues to the party.
No, I agree with you.
I have noticed your noticeable absence from party matters. For quite a while, I can't tell you 2 years, 3 years, we have got time flies so fast. You have done nothing. You did nothing to try and help the city council in Birmingham
No,
in this city
that's
council,
not true.
In the town council.
I donated chicken.
Oh my God.
Oh
my God.
I supported the fundraising efforts. Yes, man.
You,
I did a lot of things.
You know something?
Including
I did
taking-
nothing for the city council.
Including
But my
including-
God, did I give money? But presents out there. I couldn't. I have personal problems. But no, not can tell me that you be chicken, so you.
But no, that man.
And you have always
I've been on
been
the airwaves all the time.
against the party.
What's that?
Every time you go, it hurts the party. And when I test every time, because I don't hear everything. I am just otherwise occupied and engaged at this time. So I come into this.